You are listening to Talking Images, the official podcast of icmforum.com. Welcome back, everyone. This episode is going to be a bit different, and in a way a direct sequel to our Season 5 finale, when we talked about the 2020s so far and what it will be remembered for. Since then, the icmforum.com community has voted for the best films of the 2020s. And we're gonna react to their choices, or our choices, because I was a voter, my co-hosts Saul and Tom were voters, but our fourth co-host Adam did not vote, thinking he hadn't seen enough, but then realizing he had seen pretty much everything. So we're gonna force him to vote next time. In this episode, we're gonna try to keep it brief, and we'll see if we agree or disagree, which of these films will be established classics and which will be forgotten. And which films are we just stunned and annoyed are present on this list at all? And which films are we crying ourselves to sleep at night because the forum just has not embraced them enough? Oh, and the full list is actually a top 250. We'll add a link to that in the description, but to keep the running time manageable, we will only reveal and react to the top 50 here. Now that's a pretty tall order in itself. So we'll just rush straight through it here, and you guys can just respond in the reverse alphabetical order for once. And the first one up here, number 50, is a film we actually did a full episode on, Beau is Afraid. Like, how do you guys feel about Beau is Afraid being on this list?
Hi, this is Tom here. So Beau is Afraid, I would say it's Ari Aster's weakest film. It's still okay, but I'm not sure it's deserving of a top 50 placement. If Midsommar was out a year later, I'm pretty sure that would be in the top 50, and that would be a much better result.
Hi, it's Sol here. Complete opposite of Tom. For me, Beau is Afraid is Ari Aster's best film so far, and I'm really pleased to see that people are embracing it, giving some of the initial knee-jerk reactions to it when it came out. I'm glad that it is finding a following.
Yeah, I think I agree with Tom. This is a film that I didn't like that much. I didn't really enjoy the dark comedy kind of elements to it. It's not something I'd put in the top 50.
And for my money, I'm closer to Saul. Ari Aster is not one of my top directors, but like, this is the film he made that's closest to my sensibilities. It's just so weird, so artificial. I love that fake play scene in particular. So yeah, I think it's a worthy entry here, but it's probably going to drop a bit over time. The next one though, number 49, is a film I'm not overly fond of. And in fact, I just watched yesterday, so I could complete the top 50. It's Top Gun Maverick. How do you guys feel about this one?
So I'm not even a fan of the original, and I haven't seen the sequel. No interest whatsoever.
Echoing Tom, no interest whatsoever. I have seen the original. I didn't think it was terrible. I didn't think it was great. I know the sequel's meant to be much better, but it's just hard to muster up the enthusiasm to go out and watch it.
Well, I have seen the original and the sequel, but other than it looking good and sort of good action scenes, I am not a fan of either of the films.
Wow, in that case, that might be the most positive one. I did think it's a big improvement over the first one, but I didn't really care for the first one at all. I mean, it has some great action scenes, just to be clear, and I get why people love it. It's pretty much a great throwback to Tony Scott type action films, Catherine Bigelow type action films. If you were an action fan in the 90s or 80s, this is the film that probably speak to you, but it's pretty awkward. It's, it has this overt patriotism that the first one had too, but that almost feels like akin to parody. So it was a mixed viewing for me, but happy I finally saw it, and not meaning to throw shade. If you love this film, come to icmforum.com and tell us why we're wrong. And the next film goes in a very different direction. It's Holy Spider, about an Iranian serial killer, very critical of, let's say, misogyny and the theocracy in Iran, so it had to be made outside of Iran. Pretty brave film, but for me, a little bit over the top and unbelievable in parts, despite being based on a real story. How do you guys feel about that?
Holy Spider is much more to my taste. It's a very slick and effective thriller, just shy of being a favourite, but a very enjoyable film nonetheless.
I'm probably the most positive on Holy Spider. I really liked it. It was in my top 5 of 2022. You can go to our Best of 2022 podcast to hear me go on more about it. But if anything, for me, this is a film which is way too low down, and I would eventually like to see it rise a bit higher in the poll results.
Okay, well, I seem like a bit of a hater so far, but this is probably one of my least favourites on the in the list. I saw it quite a while ago, so I'm struggling to remember exactly my problem with it. But yeah, one of my least favourites in the top 50. I would say I felt like it was kind of over the top with the style.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from there, though, to Saul's point. It did jump up 23 spots from last time. It's a 2022 film, so this might be a film that does end up climbing higher. And I think Saul is a big fan of the next one, too. On 47, we have Brandon Cronenberg's Possessor, really following in his father's footsteps. I thought it was a little bit slight, really cool concept, great atmosphere, a lot of promise. So yeah, pretty fun, dark sci-fi there.
Brandon Cronenberg's films just keep getting better and better. Possessor wasn't his best effort, but it still shows a lot of promise, and I had a good time with this.
Yeah, look, Chris is wrong there. I'm not a fan of Possessor. I thought it was alright. I thought it was actually pretty good, but I didn't think it was anywhere near as good as David Cronenberg's films. But for me, like Tom said, Brandon Cronenberg's a filmmaker is getting better and better. And there's a gigantic quantum leap in quality between Antival and Possessor, and it's also a giant quantum leap in quality between Possessor and Infinity Pool. So probably my hope is that down the track later this decade, people are going to get less hot on Possessor, realize that it's not that great, and hopefully Infinity Pool will rise above it in people's esteem.
Well, this isn't generally the kind of film that I like, but I watched it last night and I actually really liked it. I think it was a really interesting plot, a really interesting kind of idea, and I was pretty much gripped by the film the whole way through, so I think it was actually a really good one.
Yeah, no one loves Possessor here. We all kind of like it. Poor Brandon Cronenberg. Again, if you love this film, come and tell us why we're wrong. Next one up is one we discussed in our Best Films of 2021 podcast. It's Nightmare Alley. What are your feelings about this one being on 46?
I'm surprised to see Nightmare Alley so high. I'm generally a fan of Del Toro's works, but this didn't grab me. It felt too long, convoluted. Still an okay distraction, but far from his best effort.
I was also surprised to see it so high in the poll results, but pleasantly surprised. I did cover it. It was one of my top films in the 2021 Best of 2021 podcast. So yeah, I think it's great. It's one of those rare remakes that really outdoes the original, with probably Bradley Cooper's career best performance in there. Great turn also by Cate Blanchett, great art direction. No, I think it's an excellent film, but it does get hard done by, so I'm surprised that people in the forum, pleasantly surprised that people in the forum have reacted so positively to it.
Well, I agree with Tom on this one. I thought it was, far too long considering the quality of the film, and definitely surprised to see in the top 50. Hopefully will fall out next year.
I already outlined my issues with the film in the 2021 episode. I liked it, great visuals, but yeah, overly long and not one of Del Toro's best. On 45, we have The Boy and the Heron, Miyazaki's comeback that at least to be really recaptured a lot of the magic of his previous films, but also not one of his best. How do you guys feel about Boy and the Heron being on 45th?
I'm ashamed to say that I haven't seen it yet. I am interested, just haven't got round to it. So yeah, I'll have to wait and see.
Boy and the Heron is on about par for Miyazaki, so, I think, it's a good film. I think it's a better film than Wind Rises. That, for me, was a very disappointing swan song, so I'm glad he came back and he did this film, because it does feel more like the stuff from his peak period. But, yeah, for me, it's nothing which is really too special, so I'm not surprised it's in the top 50, but I think it's got room to fall down when people get a little bit less hot about it.
Well, I pretty much love everything by Miyazaki. I mean, it wasn't his greatest film, but I still think it was very good. And I think any film that we get by him at this stage is like a pretty massive gift. So I'm a big fan, and I'm really happy he made another film.
Yeah, I'm in a similar camp, and I think that it's a film that, if anything, might actually go up. I mean, it's quite possibly his last film, and I think that just the fact that it has that Miyazaki magic, and the fact that it is probably the only film that's going to be there in the 2020s, etc., it's going to give it a very special place, especially in the vacuum left by Ghibli. Next one up is another film by a director I generally love a lot. I thought it's Asteroid City by Wes Anderson. I thought it was great, but honestly, I'm shocked it's here. It's one of my lesser favorites from him, probably bottom 2-3 from him for me, and it has a 6.5 on IMDb. So I'm really shocked it shot up to 44th. How do you guys feel about that?
I was also surprised, Chris. Wes Anderson has made much better films, but it is a film that I really enjoy. The fact that there's some sci-fi elements in there really appeals to me. It's probably the closest, we're going to get to Wes Anderson playing with genre aspects, so I really enjoyed it.
Just to clarify, Asteroid City actually fell in the poll results since last time, so it's not like it shot up, it actually is falling down. For me, I guess that's a bit disappointing because I did like it more than some of the other stuff he's come out recently, but then I'm generally not a big Wes Anderson fan. That said, I'm not surprised I did well in the poll results because Wes Anderson is one of the most overpraised directors on the forum. There's a big following for him, which I don't really get, so I'm not surprised that it's on there. I'm happy it's on there. It deserves to be in the top 50 more than another Anderson film, which we'll come to a little later.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the recent Wes Anderson films. In fact, I'd put this one and the other one as some of the weakest of the top 50. I used to like him a lot more. I wasn't a fan of the most recent ones, to be honest.
I'm one of the fans, but like I said, I don't think it should be there. I wouldn't even necessarily put it in the top 250. So, anyways, on 43rd, it's a film I'm actually surprised it's not higher. It's Pixar's Soul. It's probably their best film of the 2020s. In my view, it's just a beautiful statement about finding pleasure and meaning in the little things in life. One of the most adult films as well. Yeah, big fan of this one. So I'm really surprised that it's only 43rd and it went down in the poll as well. But at least it's there.
This is another gap in my viewing. I haven't seen Soul. There's only 4 films in the top 50 I haven't seen, and 3 of them are animated, which may hint at something there. But yeah, I will check this out at some point.
I guess we'll have to do a Why Tom Hates Animated Films podcast. Zero did a podcast on why Tom hates documentaries. Hates in inverted commas. Anyway, yes, I've seen Soul, and Adam's written in the chat, hopefully Soul has seen Soul. Yeah, I get it. Look, I thought it was good. I liked it at the time. For me, it was nothing special, but it was good. It was quite harmless, as, best animated feature winners go. Yeah, it was fine.
I really like Soul. I would agree with Chris. I think it's one of maybe their best one in the past few years. So yeah, I'm happy to see it in the list as well.
And on 42nd, we have Close, a tale of 2 friends who society feel are young friends. Society feel a bit too close. It's heartbreaking, beautiful, definitely one of the more strongest films on this list for me. How do you guys feel about it?
Close has a gripping story, great performances. I really enjoyed it. Again, just shy of being a favourite for me. I think I'm a harsh critic, but quite happy to see this one on the list so high.
I thought it was pretty good. It wouldn't be in my own top 50 or 100 of the decade. I'm not surprised that it is, though, because they've got a really good following online, and a lot of films which sort of without spoiling too much, delve into these LGBTIQ issues, seem to do quite well. So I'm not surprised that it's got a strong following.
Yeah, I would have Close as one of my favourites of the decade, actually. I think it was incredibly moving, really good performances by the actors given their age. And yeah, really thought it was a very, very good story as well. So it's one of my favourites for sure.
And on 41st, we have one of the biggest earners of the decade so far, Barbie. And I love Barbie. I think it's so colorful. The musical sequence is fantastic. I love that they managed to take a toy brand and make something so cinematically thought out and crazy and stylized and fun with message and texture in it as well. It's a wonder to me that this film even exists and that it ended up being this. So I'm fully supportive of Barbie being in the top 50. What about you guys?
I found Barbie to be very overhyped. It didn't deserve all the praise. I still had a fun time with it. I loved the nods, the playful nods to 2001 and The Matrix, and it wasn't a bad film, but I don't think it's deserving of a place in the top 50, let alone the top 250.
For me, Barbie's a film that started off really well, and I loved where it was going. But then towards the end, it became like very message heavy. And a few different things happened with the characters which didn't quite make sense. So it didn't quite hit home for me in the end. I loved where it was going to begin off with, but I'm not surprised that it's doing well in the poll results, even though it wouldn't have been in my own top 50 or 100 of the decade.
Well, I'm kind of surprised at the more negative reaction because I really liked Barbie. I thought it was really great entertainment, great satire. Happy to see it high up in the list.
And on number 40 is a film that I'm not a big fan of, but I think you guys are. It's Palm Springs. It has a really cool concept. I know some of you guys love time loop films. There's some fun ideas here, but it just didn't quite hit the right note for me. I think we talked about this one in our Best Films of 2020 podcast as well. So if you want to know more about how I feel about it, you can check that out.
I'm a huge fan of films involving time loops, and Palm Springs is one of the better ones to come out in recent years. Really happy to see it in the top 50, and I would just remind everyone that we really need to do a podcast on films involving time loops.
I'm also a big, massive fan of time loop films, and yeah, I would agree that Palm Springs is one of the better ones. If I remember correctly, I think I was one of the people who had Palm Springs in the top 5 of the year in the Best of 2020 podcast, or it might have been Tom. I don't know, maybe it was both of us. It is a pretty great film.
I'm with Chris on this one. Thought it was, quite fun and entertaining, but didn't really work that well for me.
And on 39, it's not a film that I had bigger hopes for. I know a lot of people love it, but it just didn't quite hit up. And it's May December by Todd Haynes. How do you guys feel about May December?
I really liked May December. I'm happy to see it so high. The performances were incredible. It handles a delicate subject really well. It's tense throughout. And to be honest, I'd be quite happy to give this one a rewatch, which I don't do that often.
This is one that I'm really surprised is so high up on the list. It's not a bad film. I actually thought it was fairly good, but there were parts of it that didn't quite work for me. I really liked Julianne Moore's performance in there and her character, and I think that's sort of where the juice of the film really lay. But the film explores other avenues, especially involving Natalie Portman's character, which didn't quite work for me. So yeah, I think it was a good enough film, but it wouldn't be like top 250 of the decade for me. And I am surprised by how quite high up it is on our list.
Yeah, I'm with Soul on this one. I think it was alright, the film, but I'm pretty shocked that the forum voted it so highly. I don't quite understand the praise to that level. I think it was alright, an easy watch, but I don't think it was anything special at all.
Yeah, similar feelings for me. Like I said, I liked it. It felt almost a bit like a TV movie, to be honest, which is shocking for someone like Todd Haynes, sadly. But yeah, a lot of people love it. Again, come to icmforum.com and tell us why we're wrong. And I'm probably going to have a similar unpopular opinion about the next one. It's Darren Aronofsky's The Whale. I tend to love how over the top he is. I absolutely loved Mother. I know that's one that's a lot of people are split on, and like this one more. I like The Whale, but yeah, it felt like a stage play and too over the top in the wrong way. So yeah, a bit of a miss for him in my view, even though I still liked it.
I agree with Chris. The Whale is a miss from Aronofsky. It's probably tied with Noah as his weakest film. I am actually a huge fan of the director. 5 of his films are favourites of mine, but The Whale just felt plain and boring, not as exciting or out there as his usual efforts.
I'm really sad to hear that reaction from the two of you, because for me, The Whale was one of the best films of its year. It almost made my list of best films of 2022, but wasn't in my top 5, so I didn't discuss it on the podcast. Don't have enough time to go into detail about it, but basically the performances were really strong in it. I was really gripped by the drama in it. I found it really quite heartbreaking. It was one of those where I sort of moved to tears in the theatre, which doesn't happen very often. And yeah, I think it's one of his strongest films. Although I love Mother also, it's a very different sort of film. I thought The Whale was a really great human drama, and it's something that would be hard to watch again because how emotionally draining it is. But I would love to watch it again because I can only see it going up in my esteem.
I'm definitely closer to Soul on this one. I thought it was a really strong film, really moving. I think I'd actually struggled to rewatch it because I thought it was kind of the way you got emotionally invested in it. But definitely one which I'm quite happy to see do well in the poll.
Well, at least a bit more positive on the next one, Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy. It's the other film Hamaguchi made in 2021, and I honestly strongly prefer this one to Drive My Car. I think it's better paced. I love the way that we just follow these various characters in their own stories that just have conversation together. It's almost like a Romare-esque film in Japan. It hits the tone and atmosphere just right, and it can be quite spellbinding at times. So to date, this is actually the Hamaguchi film I like the best.
I would agree with Chris. This was an excellent drama. Really nice performances, quite subtle, understated stories, but ones that dig in and leave a lasting impression.
I would probably agree with Chris that it's a better film than Drive My Car. Even though Drive My Car got all the buzz and the acclaim, I did prefer Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy. But still, it wouldn't be top 250 of the decade for me. It'd probably even be top 500 of the decade. For me, it's definitely one of the weakest films in the top 50 of the list. And yeah, I still prefer it to Drive My Car. So I don't know what I'm going to say about that one when it comes up to it.
But, spoiler as well, it is coming up.
Oh, okay. Well, it would be a bit weird if we had a list and Drive My Car wasn't above Wheel of Fortune Fantasy because it's got so much more buzz and it's been so much more widely distributed, so it's no surprise that both of the films are on there. But yeah, look, I just shake my head at this film. It's good. I prefer to Drive My Car, but yeah, there's no way I would have it on top 50 of the list.
Well, this one for me is one of my favourites of the decade, kind of echoing what Chris said as well. It kind of reminded me of Romero films. He's one of my favourite directors. I loved how it went into different segments, different storylines, and definitely my favourite by the director as well. So really happy to see it so high.
And the next film up is that other Wes Anderson film that was hinted at earlier. On 36th, we have The French Dispatch, Oz, Liberty, Kansas Evening Sun. That's a mouthful. Or just more briefly known as French Dispatch. It's a vignette film. It's almost set up as a magazine with different stories being narrated by their authors. I thought it was really cute. It was a great idea. I like that, you had these great actors doing different journalists. It's a bit up and down in quality of each story, as often is the case, but separate from Wheel of Fortune Fantasy, where I thought was pretty equal in quality. Again, not one of my favorite Wes Anderson films. Don't have it on my own list, but I do think it's a great film. I don't mind it being here.
I was disappointed with The French Dispatch. There's moments of playful brilliance throughout, but not enough to really redeem it. The whole idea didn't work for me, and yeah, it was a bit of a letdown. Not sure why it's here in the list.
Yeah, I agree with Tom. It was a big letdown, and that's coming as somebody who's not a fan of Wes Anderson. For me, I already discussed it because this came up, I believe, in our Best of 2021 podcast. But yeah, it's just like it's very symmetrical, over the top symmetrical. It's just like all the most extreme things of Wes Anderson. Yeah, I really didn't get much out of it. So for me, it's the second worst film in our top 50.
I think I'd probably have this one as the worst or second worst in the top 50 as well. Actually, despite the short runtime, thought it was a slog to get through it. And like Asteroid City, just not really enjoying the recent Wes Anderson films.
A lot of negativity here, and I'm gonna continue it and be even more controversial because next film up is The Batman on number 35. And it's my least favorite on the entire list, which is really disappointing because I was really excited when Robert Pattinson was selected as Batman. I was really excited when I saw the visuals and heard that it was visually driven, and the visuals are actually pretty great, but it's just, the tone doesn't work. It's so clunky and rough around the edges. I know people love it, but it's just such a mixed bag for me. I didn't particularly care for it at all.
That's interesting, Chris, because the tone really worked for me. Like this gothic, grungy aspect to it was incredible. The use of Nirvana as well, something in the way that really spoke to me. I thought it was a great entry into the Batman franchise, considering it's coming after, Nolan's amazing trilogy. It's good to see there's still life in the story. So yeah, I'm happy to see this on the list.
I haven't seen the Batman, and I've got very little interest in it. I'm not a big superhero movie fan at the best of times, and this is a 3-hour long one, so I just can't muster up the enthusiasm. And when I hear Tom going about how amazing the Nolan trilogy was, and I go oh, I wasn't a giant fan of that either. I'm thinking, yeah, I'm probably doing the right thing by making it very low on my priority watch list.
I mean, I generally avoid superhero films, but I actually thought it was pretty good, the Batman, and despite it being 3 hours long, I think it kind of justified the time. So I would say maybe give it a shot, but I thought it was one of the better ones, considering I'm not generally that big a fan of that type of genre.
There's some positivity there at least. And on 34th, we get one of the most beloved and discussed films of the decade, Steven Spielberg's The Fabelmans. His semi-autobiography. I thought there was a lot of things in this one that really, really worked. It's a good film, though I didn't fully get all the praise. I love the ending, but I thought it was, as quite usual with Steven Spielberg, especially lately, over-sentimental to the extreme, putting me off. So the bully sequence in particular, we talked about this in the Best Films of 2022 podcast. I had a lot of critiques of it, but yeah, I did at least like it, so not a full-on hater on this one.
The Fabelmans is my first favourite to make the list in the top 50. Really happy that it's here. Moved me to tears in parts. Great story. Any films about filmmaking usually work well for me, so I'm glad this is here.
I didn't love The Fabelmans as much as Tom, but I agree that it's a great film. I also agree with Chris. The final third of it, the bully section, was my least favourite section. For me, the first section was the best. As the Yankee was most magical, then it became less interesting, but still all right as a young teenager, but the last part of it sort of dropped it off for me. But, generally I think it's a great film, and I'm pleased that it's in the top 50.
Well, I'm much more with Chris on this one. I'm kind of shocked at how much people like it. I mean, I think it was all right, but just overly sentimental to the point that it was really hard to enjoy it a lot.
Well, let's ramp up the positivity even more than with the next one, which is Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes, which is a film we talked about several times already. It's this small, low-budget, joyful time loop film that just plays around and has a lot of fun with a great concept. I'm a fan of it. I think we all talked about how much we enjoyed this one before. Yeah, absolute blast, and quite a hidden gem that people really need to check out.
Agreed, Chris. This is such a fun film. It's only 70 minutes long. If you haven't seen Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes, go and check it out now. And if you have, make sure that you've also listened to our podcast where we spoke to Adam Terrell, who was key in getting its distribution over here. It's great listening back to that. So, yeah, happy to see this on the list.
Yeah, it's a very fun film. I did have some issues with it. I think, they keep moving around with the unplugged TV and it keeps working. But look, generally for a film which is sort of done with limited cast, limited budget and everything, it's pretty great. So yeah, I would recommend anybody checking it out if they haven't done already.
Yeah, I think this one's very great. Entertainment, basically fun entertainment the whole way through. I think it's one of the better films on the list. Also echo what Tom said about the podcast episode. I think that was one of the best episodes we've had so far.
Yeah, go check that episode out. And on 32nd place, we have Park Chan-wook's decision to leave. I mean, I'm a big fan of Park. I love the way he shoots. Interestingly, he's often been compared to an heir to Hitchcock in terms of setting up tension. This is a little bit that gets inspired by Vertigo. I liked it a lot, but it's one of his lesser films. I don't fully understand why this one is so beloved. Maybe I just like him more when he goes all out crazy, like his Vengeance trilogy, etc. I just thought it was a good crime drama. Didn't fully love the romance, and it felt a little bit too flat for him. But good that he's trying out something more serious and diversifying his filmography.
I'm a huge Park Chan-wook fan, but this one was just disappointing for me. Felt like a lesser effort, a bit too convoluted, didn't really work. Surprised to see it this high on the list.
Echoing Chris and Tom, this is one where I guess I'm not surprised that it's high up on the list because it got quite a bit of buzz when it came out, but I do think it is way too high up. For me, it's certainly one of his weaker films. And I guess if you're watching it expecting to be like a Vertigo homage, I guess that you're going to knock yourself out with that because it doesn't really do anything much with it. I think it was a pretty good to average film, probably one of the 6 or 7 weakest films in the top 50 for me though.
I'd agree pretty much with everyone else. I had really high expectations going into the film. think it was a decent film, but I think it was a little bit of a letdown given the potential.
Wow, so no fans of Decision to Leave. So yeah, fans, come to icmforum.com and let us know why we're wrong. Share that love here. And obviously a lot of our regular listeners who voted here can voice their disappointment with us as well. But I think at least I will be far more positive on the film on the 31st position. Sean Baker's Red Rocket, just absolutely love this one. I love the raw atmosphere that Baker always manages to create. Here he kind of rediscovered Simon Rex. It's one of the best performances of the decade, honestly. Raw, uncomfortable, just absolutely wonderful, and a great setup for Anora as well.
I agree, Chris. This is an excellent effort from Baker. Really enjoyed the dark, twisted humour, great performances, and yeah, one of his better films by far.
I don't feel like I have much to add because we did already cover this in quite a bit of depth in our Best of 2021 podcast. But yeah, for me, definitely one of Sean Baker's more enjoyable and more interesting films. I mean, almost all of his films, other than Florida Project, are great. And this is one of them. It's a really good film with a really solid Simon Rex performance in it.
I don't think I liked it as much as everyone else, but I did think it was a decent film with good performances, interesting plot.
And on 30th, it's a film we're probably going to discuss in the Best Film of 2024 podcast when it comes out. It's Dune Part 2. I thought this was a fully worthy sequel to the first Dune. The visuals are still fantastic. It's still doing pretty much everything right. This type of action sci-fi, it's not the closest to my heart. It feels a little bit too sterilized for me to just absolutely love it in every way, but it's a great film, it's a great series, and yeah, it's just some of the best that mainstream cinema can pump out. So yeah, I have no issue with this one being in the top 50, though it wouldn't be in my top 100 of the decade.
Dune Part 2 is another favourite of mine. Excellent filmmaking. Love it. Just the fact that we're getting these huge, big blockbuster sci-fis with such amazing cinematography, beautiful visuals, great storytelling. I'm sure I'll go on about it much more in the Best Films of 2024 podcast.
The big test for me will be to see whether I can actually be bothered watching Dune Part 2 before we record the 2024 podcast. I still haven't seen Dune Part 1. I'm a big sci-fi fan, but I prefer hard sci-fi, not like adventure and space sci-fi. Space operas, that's not my sort of thing. And yeah, look, I don't know, for me the film just looks incredibly boring. I didn't really like what David Lynch did with the original Dune, and yeah, I just really have very limited interest in seeing it, even though I feel like I probably should do, just for the podcast that's coming up.
This is the only film in the top 50 I haven't seen yet. I'm not that excited to see it, which is probably why it's the only one left, but I can't comment on it too much.
Did you see the first one?
Yeah, I mean, I saw the first one, but I saw it from home, and I kind of feel like it's a film that needs to be seen in the cinema. So it was, decent enough for me, but I don't think it works that well at home.
Got it. Bleak. And to flip the script entirely then, to go from a huge blockbuster to something really, really small and intimate. The next film up on 29th is Petite Maman by Celine Sciamma. It's one of her smallest films. It's just 73 minutes long. It's about essentially a time travel film about a young girl who finds a hole in the universe and meets another girl. And it's touching, it's beautiful. I don't want to spoil too much about it, but yeah, magical.
I found it to be an enjoyable diversion, a bit slight with a short run time and not really as affecting as most people make it out to be, but I can see why a lot of people love it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that Petite Maman ended up being on the list, but for me, definitely not one of his stronger films. I guess I sort of cottoned on to what was going on long before it's revealed to us, and I think even as 73 minutes, it did feel a bit on the long side. Felt like it might have worked a bit better as a short film.
I would echo Chris on this one. Thought it was a really very good film, and magical, I think, is a good description of the film overall.
And on 28, we have The Power of the Dog. We were speaking of a bigger hit than I thought. I thought it was great. Possibly my favorite to win Best Picture that year, though I wouldn't put it on my own top 100 of the decade. Great performances, great, more stripped down minimalist atmosphere, some great undertones going on there and tension. So yeah, I think it's a worthy entry here, but not one of my top favorites.
I'm quite surprised to see this one getting all the praise that it receives. It was okay, but to be honest, it didn't really do much for me. Quite surprised to see it this high.
Just on that note, The Power of the Dog has actually dropped 21 spots since we last conducted the poll. So even though it's high up, it used to be even higher. And I guess I find that surprising because I've been chatting to people with the possibility of Emilia Perez winning Best Picture. People are bringing up will be the most controversial winner since Coda. And I sort of go, well, Coda didn't have that much to compete against. And look, I don't really remember that much about Power of the Dog other than the fact that it was the film that was tipped to win over Coda. I mean, it was a solid enough drama, had some really good performances in there. I love Jane Campion. I'm really happy that she won an Oscar for it, but for me, it's not one of Jane Campion's stronger films, and I'm surprised it's being remembered so fondly by poll voters.
Yeah, I feel pretty much the same as Tom and So. I think it was okay, but I'm really surprised. Really surprised it's done so well in the poll, and even more surprised that it was in the top 10 last year. I wouldn't have it in the top 250, to be honest.
I have similar feelings about the next one up too, which actually did win Best Picture. It's Chloe Zhao's Nomadland. I thought it was pretty great. I love that the Academy was recognizing more minimalist approaches, and I thought Frances McDormand gave a fantastic central performance. But being this high, I never got the extreme love for it, to put it like that.
Yeah, we seem to be in boring drama territory here, Chris. I don't understand the love for Nomadland at all. I can't believe it, won 3 Oscars. It's okay. It's not a bad film, but there's just nothing special about it. It seems pretty bland and unmemorable to me.
Yeah, Nomadland's not one of the worst Best Pictures, but it's definitely one of, I guess, the least interesting ones. I think sort of some reason why it's surprising that it's one is that considering the films it was up against Promising Young Woman and The Father, and it still managed to get on top of those. So yeah, I'm sort of surprised people are putting it up that high. I guess like Power of the Dog for me, I'm a bit surprised about it. But I thought it was well acted and whatever. It just wouldn't be a top 50 film for me.
I really liked this one. I think one of my favourites. Kind of slightly reminded me of films like The Straight Story, which I love. So this one totally worked for me, and I really like Frances McDormand as well.
I also have similar feelings this one on the next one, Another Round. It has a really unique concept, great performances. Again, not sure why it got as much love as it does, but I have no issue with it being here. It's pretty great, and yeah, it's I guess supposed an iconic ending.
I wouldn't say I've ever had a drinking problem, but I've enjoyed the odd tipple of alcohol from now and again, and that's why I really enjoyed Another Round. I found it a very funny black comedy, and it was brilliant, a great concept, and it just reminded me of some happy times. So yeah, enjoyed it a lot.
Well, I'm a non-drinker, so maybe that's why I didn't really get Another Round. And I guess as a teacher also, I felt it was kind of a pretty terrible concept, which they didn't really do that much with. A lot of it you could see coming. And I don't know, I mean, performances were alright and whatever. It's not my least favourite film in the top 50, but it's possibly my third, maybe my fourth least favourite in the top 50. People who are massive drinkers do seem to definitely love the film, so I'm not surprised it's that high up. But as a non-drinker, yeah, I just, it's not Vinterberg's best film or anything. I'm really surprised they got a Best Director Oscar nomination for it. Must be a lot of die-hard drunks in the Academy voting branch.
Probably.
I really didn't like this one. This would be bottom 5 of the top 50, absolutely, for me. I really don't get it. I mean, if we're going to talk about who's a drinker, I mean, I used to be a drinker. I haven't drank for a couple of years, but just did not get this film. It kind of rubbed me up the wrong way, and pretty shocked that people love it so much. I don't understand why, to be honest.
Well, let's flip it into a more positive gear again, and with All of Us Strangers, it's one of my favorite of the decade so far. It's just beautifully stunning in terms of atmosphere. 2 or actually 4 fantastic performances. Every single actor in this film amongst the core quartet gave Oscar-worthy performances. Andrew Scott probably gave one of the best of the decade. Paul Mescal was fantastic as well. It's kind of like a horror film, kind of like Supernatural, and it mixes all of this together into this almost unique experience. You don't really see a lot like this out there. Beautiful atmosphere. So yeah, big favorite for me.
I really enjoyed All of Us Strangers. It was just shy of a favourite for me. Great cinematography, really nice performances, a good soundtrack as well. I think this is deserving of its place.
I liked All of Us Strangers primarily for reasons that I can't really get into without spoilers, but I agree it had at least 3 really good performances in there. Poor Mescal will just be the performance, which was a bit of a nothing performance for me, but I guess I'll get a bit more Poor Mescal hate later on in the podcast without revealing too much.
I went into this one with not the highest expectations for some reason, but I ended up thinking it was great. I would put it as one of my absolute favorites of the decade. I'd even rewatch it now. I think it's that good. Really great performances, really great kind of general plot, and definitely one of the best of the decade for me.
And the next one up, and let's see how we feel about this one. It's on 24th there. It's Licorice Pizza by Paul Thomas Anderson. I'm a huge Paul Thomas Anderson fan. I thought this film was great, but it's one of his lesser films, if that makes sense. It wasn't as, composed visually as he tends to do, which was a huge disappointment for me. But I think, especially for probably Americans, it really hits some nostalgic vibes. It captures the era in like a hyper, over-the-top way. Very bizarre plot. But yeah, I never really got fully why people love it as much as they do, but it's a great film. I don't mind it being here, but would probably prefer it if it wasn't.
I'm also a huge Paul Thomas Anderson fan. I wasn't really taken with Inherent Vice or Phantom Thread, so it's nice to see him back on form with Licorice Pizza. I like the unpredictability of it, and as Chris mentioned, the nostalgia was great. It's a really fun dynamic between the two leads, and a great story about first love.
I guess you guys can count me in as a third Paul Thomas Anderson fan, but I'd side with Chris on this. It's definitely, for me, one of his weaker films, largely because, like he said, it's not so visually well composed. It's also the way it's written there as a series of incidents. It's one of those films which is all about the vibes rather than telling a story per se, and that's one of those trends in cinema that I guess I really just can't stand. For me, I still thought it was a good film. It was funny. I laughed in there. There was some great supporting turns in there. So it was an enjoyable enough film, but yeah, it's not a film that I'd put anywhere near my top 50 of the decade.
Yeah, just echo what Saul said. I think it was a decent film, but one of the director's weaker films, and not one I would put in my list.
And on 23rd, there's a film with a trend that I can get behind. It's Past Lives by Celine Song, and the trend is these before sunrise, before sunset type films, or the Romer-esque films where people walk around, sit around and talk and just develop really interesting characters and dialogues, and here also reflecting on past and the romance, etc. I thought it hit well, and not one of my top favorites of the decade, but it's a really great film, and I have no issue with it being this high.
I really like Past Lives as well. It's a beautiful, delicate storytelling, nice cinematography, and deserving of its place on the list. It's not quite a favourite for me, but I can see why people are taken with it.
I'm not a particularly big fan myself of films where just about people sitting around and talking, so I was surprised by how much I like Past Lives. I didn't think it was an absolutely brilliant film. It wouldn't be in my top 50 or top 100 of the decade, but I thought it was a decent enough effort. I'm not sorry it's on the list, but I do think it is a little bit high up on the list.
Well, I am a big fan of people sitting around talking, kind of like Chris said about Romer and Before Sunrise. Those kind of films are my favourites, and I thought Past Lives was great. Would put it as one of my favourites of the decade, another one that I found really moving and very well done, so really happy to see it so high, and it's also moved up 24 places from last year, so hopefully the trend continues next year.
And coming out on 22nd is a film I was surprised I didn't love. It's Wim Wenders' Perfect Days. It's one of those films that hit on minimalism, melancholy. It plays a lot with music. It's just Badrum Kulimacher who's forms a connection with his niece. There's a lot of things here that really should work for me, but I just thought the relationship was a bit too undercooked. Not all of the dialogue worked. It just thought it was a bit too slim, but it's good. It's Wenders. It's obviously very well made. But yeah, it's a film I don't get why people are falling for as much as they do.
Regular listeners of the podcast will know I have a thing for toilet horror, and unfortunately, toilet horror doesn't make the top 50 of our list, so this is the closest we're going to get a film about a toilet cleaner, and to be honest, it's pretty good.
I like Perfect Days, largely for the central lead performance. I thought that was great in it. I wouldn't put it quite this high up on my own list of the decade. I think I might have had it in the 90s in my list. I think it wasn't my top 100, but I guess it's one where it's I can't look at it and go, oh, it's just excessively acclaimed because it's the number one most favorited film on the 2020s list on ICM. And I'm sort of like, that should be everything everywhere all at once. So it's hard for me not to knee-jerk reaction and say that it's overrated. But look, it's a pleasant film. I liked it. But I do think it's a little bit high on the list.
I'm a really big fan of this one. This is another of my favourites of the decade, and interestingly, I've seen only 4 films by the director, love them all, so I don't know why I haven't watched more by him. But yeah, I thought this was a great one. I think it's one of the best so far in the past 5 years.
Great that we found one super fan at least. That's awesome. And on 21st spot here, we find a pretty dark and grim film. It's Yasmir Spanik's Where Are You Going, Ida? Covering the Bosnian genocide, following a translator, working with the UN and taking us through it in a very stripped down tone. I thought it was great. I thought it was very powerful. I thought it could have been more visually exciting or visually driven. But on the emotions, it really hits hard. So I get why this is one of those films that really stayed with people.
This was an incredibly powerful film. Bleak, brutal, devastating, anxiety-inducing. Everything that I want in a film. Loved it. Really happy that it's here. Shame it didn't make the top 20, but maybe it will rise higher in future polls. Let's wait and see.
There are only 5 films in the top 50 of the list that I haven't seen. And Quo Vadis Ada is the only one that I haven't seen but I expect to like. So like the June films I don't expect to like, although Batman I think they look boring. But Quo Vadis Ada I think I will like it, but the way Tom's described it whenever he's talked about the film as being stressful, anxiety-inducing, it feels like a film that I have to be in the mood for. And I guess I haven't actually really found that niche where I felt in the mood for a stressful, anxiety-inducing film. So I haven't seen it yet, but it is a film that I do expect to like when I see it, unlike the Batman.
I agree completely with Tom on this one. I think it was a hard watch because it was so kind of devastating, but I think it was a really powerful film and one that really sticks with you years after watching it. So I'm glad to see it doing so well in the poll.
And entering the top 20 here, we get a completely different pick. It's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Frankly, I thought it was great. It's colorful, it's playful. I mean, I love what John is doing with the Spider-Verse animated films there. Not as over-the-top experimental as the first one, but these touches are still there. It's a blast. I just think it's great that we actually get these properly great superhero films, because I think that I haven't been overly excited or interested in Marvel DC for a long time. So these films are kind of keeping the superhero films interesting for me.
Despite my love for the Batman, I'm not really a huge superhero film fan, and that perhaps explains why I haven't seen this yet. I enjoyed the first one, but can't really remember much of it, so I don't want to go into Across the Spider-Verse without rewatching the first one, but I can't be bothered to rewatch the first one, so I guess we're stuck at a stalemate there. So yeah, maybe I'll get to it one day.
I actually rewatched the first one, Into the Spider-Verse, before watching Across the Spider-Verse, and Into the Spider-Verse plummeted in my esteem the second time round. It wasn't as fresh or original or as surprising or as the surprises of the first. It turns out, in the second half, that made it so great for me, so I didn't like that as much the second time round. And then Across the Spider-Verse, I guess, for me, it was sort of on the same level, but then it, ends open-ended, and I just, hate films like that, so I'll probably hate Dune Part 1, but they sort of just oh, okay, we're just going to end the film here, there's no resolution or anything, we're just going yeah, end it, and, stay tuned for the next one, so I'm not really a big fan of that approach to cinema, so, look, it was alright, it's some nice visuals, but I guess it sort of rubbed me the wrong way also, and I guess I'm glad that Boy and the Heron beat it for Best Animated Picture at the Oscars.
I mean, with some exceptions, I'm not a fan of superhero films, I generally avoid them. So I'd avoided this one, and then I decided to watch the film without having seen the first film in the series. But then about 5 minutes into this one, I ended up really liking it and realizing I should watch both. So I watched both of them in one night, and really big fan. I think the style was really interesting, something really new. And it was a huge shock for me because I just assumed, because it was a superhero film, I assumed I wasn't going to like it. But I think they did something really different, and it was really fascinating.
And moving on to number 19, we have Emerald Fennell's Promising Young Woman. Frankly, one of my favorites of the past decade. Really happy it's managed to just stay in the top 20 here. Probably going to be pushed further down. I don't necessarily mind that, but it's just such a cool, bold, irreverent piece of satire that just hits hard and doesn't take itself too seriously, with some great stylized performances as well. So yeah, really memorable, very much of the decade. So happy it's this high up.
I agree with Chris. It's a slick and stylish revenge film, quite provocative thematically, and you can have quite a fun time with it. It's a good film.
I loved Promising Young Woman at the time. It was my number 2 for the 2020 podcast. I think it was Chris's number 2 also. So we've discussed a lot in detail there. For me, it's definitely one of the best films of the decade. Like, I don't know if it's my top 5, but it might be number 6 or number 7. It's easily in my top 10 of the decade, and I guess I'm disappointed that's fallen in esteem. So it's like falling about 10 places since the last poll. So I'd like to see it continue to be high up because I think it's a really strong and powerful film. But then I also know some younger people have gone out and seen it and go like, oh, it's nothing special. So I don't know if it's going to keep that sort of reputation, but for me, it's definitely one of the strongest films in the list.
I didn't vote this year, but I will be next year, and I'll put it in my list quite high up, so hopefully that'll help. So I think it was just a really fun and entertaining film the whole way through. I've even gone back and rewatched the ending a couple of times, which I don't do that often, but I think it worked very well and just great entertainment. So yeah, definitely going to be on my list next year.
Great to hear. And coming up, you also have another slick satire, which has been a bit more divisive than both of them have been. It's Ruben Östlund's Triangle of Sadness. I thought this one was great, but it's also one of those where it's in 3 very separate acts, and I thought each act got weaker than the previous. I love his awkward humor, that he has the same Scandinavian sensibilities I have. So really hitting it home, but yeah, I can also understand why it has quite a few detractors.
I really enjoyed Triangle of Sadness. The humour worked well for me. It's a film that kind of put Harris Dickinson on the map as well for me. There's an incredible vomiting scene, the use of a song by one of my favourite bands, Refuse, New Noise, which took me totally by surprise, and it really hit the sweet spot. So yeah, this was a great film. Glad to see it on the list.
Triangle of Sadness was in my top 5 for 2022, so we have definitely discussed it in length in a podcast already, if anybody wants to check that podcast out. Yeah, for me, it's still a great film. It's a great satire. I do agree with Chris that it does get a little bit less interesting as the episodes go along. The first part's definitely the strongest, but overall, it's still just a really great Östlund in its element, a great film about society and about responsibility, and people refuse to accept responsibility for their actions. So yeah, it's a great Östlund film, and I'd still love to do an episode on Östlund at some point.
Yeah, for some reason I wasn't really expecting to like this one, but pretty quickly into it, I kind of embraced it and thought it was a really fun, entertaining film as well. So I ended up thinking it was really good, which I didn't really expect. I think that's about it.
And coming up on 17th, the film I didn't expect would land that high this time around because it's brand new and it's not even a top 2024 entry. It's Sean Baker's Anora. And yeah, I do think it's a step up from Red Rocket. I'm happy it's here. It's one of the best films of the decade. It has the same type of style, the same type of raw atmosphere, the same kind of storytelling and visual energy. It's also bloody hilarious. Like the middle section in particular is almost like a 30s screwball comedy, or like some kind of it's hilarious. Yeah, great film. Didn't know what to expect. It kept me on my toes, and yeah, lots of fun.
I think I saw Anora after I'd voted in the poll, so it should have potentially been even higher because it would be very high on my list. As Chris said, it's incredibly funny. Just the way the situations spiral out of control, kind of, there's been comparisons to After Hours and how things just keep going wrong, getting worse for the main characters, and the resolution at the end is just surprisingly poignant. It's a really good film, and I'm happy to see it high on the list.
Anora is a film that I like mainly for that middle section, which Chris tried to describe. I'd say it's more fast than screwball comedy, but definitely the comedy was really strong in the middle part of the film. So I really like that. For me, it's sort of like teetered off a little bit towards the end. I wouldn't really call it a favourite, but, all of Sean Baker's films, as I said earlier, are pretty great. So, it's a solid film. I'm kind of surprised that it's doing so well in the awards season, and it's got, that much buzz, and it's the third most likely film to win the Best Picture Oscar. Just stuff that just completely, I guess because things like Red Rocket didn't get that sort of acclaim. For me, I'm just surprised that this is a film that people are embracing. I thought it was a good film. I liked it. I am definitely surprised that it's so high up in our poll results.
I think I preferred this one a little bit to Red Rocket, and it was really entertaining throughout. But I wouldn't put either of them as a favorite, although I think they are pretty good.
Moving from this one to number 16, that's a film that came out of almost nowhere and ended up taking Best Picture against almost all original odds. It's Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. We have a full episode just on that movie and how it is Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. So you can go listen to that. But yeah, great fun. I was really surprised. Not one of my top favorites, but I understand why it's here.
I don't really understand the hype, to be honest. It's okay, but I won't put it in the list.
Well, quite hard to bounce back from that. Everything Everywhere All at Once, for me, is the very best film in the list. For me, it's easily the strongest film of the decade. It's the only film from the 2020s, which is my all-time top 50. I've seen it 3 times. The last time I saw it, I just had tears rolling down my face. It's just such a great emotional roller coaster of a ride, as well as being really creative, fun, out there, and original. It is a little bit juvenile. I don't really like that part of it, but it's just an amazing ride. It's just got such great characters, and I love it. And I don't understand why it's so low on our poll results. I find it really devastating that it's actually outside the top 10, and that we've got some overpraised films from the same year that are higher than in the poll results. But I guess we'll get to that a little bit later.
I'm definitely closer to Tom on this one. It was a really different, interesting film, but it wasn't quite a favourite for me. It's one that I'd quite like to rewatch once all the kind of buzz has passed a bit, because I think I went into it with extremely high expectations and didn't quite live up to them. So I think it might be one I rewatch in a couple of years.
And for any of our listeners who want more Everything Everywhere All at Once, do check out that podcast episode. And coming up on number 15, it's Killers of the Flower Moon. I can say that Martin Scorsese is my favorite American filmmaker. I think this is a great film. Robert De Niro gives one of his best performances, at least in the last 40 years. Yeah, I understand why it's below, though. While I do think it's great, it's far from being this high up for me. I thought it was a bit too long. I think that Scorsese is slipping a little bit in atmosphere. It could have been even better, but yeah, great films. I don't want to knock it too much. It's just we're getting to the top positions there.
I didn't vote for Killers of the Flower Moon. It's overlong, bloated, and not really that great. It was an okay watch. Wouldn't watch it again though, and it doesn't deserve to be in the top 50.
I thought Killers of the Flower Moon was pretty good at the time. That was about a year ago that I've seen it, and a year later, the positives of the film just are very vague in my mind. I mean, Lily Gladstone, it was a supporting performance on a lead one. She is really good at it. Robert De Niro is good at it. There are some great shots in there, but yeah, Scorsese really needs to trim it down, and it didn't feel like it needed to be that long. Like Wolf of Wall Street, 3 hours, doesn't feel like it for a second, not a second wasted. Complete opposite with Killers of the Flower Moon, and I guess I'm a bit surprised and sad that this one's jumped up higher than Everything Everywhere All at Once in the list. I don't really understand why it's quite so high up.
Yeah, this is one that I would put on my list for next year. I think it was, great director, great cast, and unlike Soul, I actually think it didn't feel too long for me. It was 3.5 hours long, but I actually think it passed quite quickly, so I didn't have a problem with that aspect. Thought it was a very good film.
And on 14th, it's the top film from my bird country. It's The Worst Person in the World from Joachim Trier And there's a lot of great things going on here. It's probably one of the better Norwegian films of all time, but I'm always a bit harsh on Norway in general. It's a great film. I love how it made Oslo essentially as a character in the film as well. Excellent performances. I don't think it belongs this high up a list of the best of the decade, but I'm not going to be complaining about it.
I would agree with Chris. This film's placed a bit too high, but I still enjoyed it. It's a great look on an existential crisis. The drug scene really stands out in my mind as a great moment in the film, and I had quite a bit of fun watching this.
And we've now reached the point where we get to my worst film on the list. So yeah, worst person in the world, one of only 2 films on the list that I'd give less than a 6 out of 10 to. And yeah, I guess the main thing for me is person, she believes she's the worst person in the world, but she does like really nothing to convince us of that. I think when more people end up seeing Grit, when more people end up seeing Sick of Myself, and realize how superior those Norwegian films are, I think Worst Person in the World will slip down in acclaim, because it really just isn't that great. It's really like a bit of a nothing sort of film, other than that sort of like freeze frame moment where she's like running through the freeze frame. It's a pretty dull, ordinary film. I'm really sad it's up so high on our list. I'm not surprised because everybody on Letterboxd loves it. But for me, when Joachim Trier, I haven't pronounced that correctly, when you go into like an Oscar nomination for the screenplay, like I slap my face. I slap my head, It's just, it really grinds my gears that it's up there so high. So for me, it's definitely the worst film in our top 50.
Right, kind of hard to follow that, but I did really like it. I mean, I would agree that 14 is probably too high. I'd have it in the top 50, top 100. But I thought it was it was quite a funny film. I thought it worked very well. I think it deserves its place in the top 50.
That's similar to how I feel about next film too. On number 13 we have I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Charlie Kaufman. Big Charlie Kaufman fan. I love that we got something this surreal and crazy in there. I think it hits the tones quite well. It's just another great existential dark comedy from him, but it's not one of his very, very best. So I have no issue with it being this high because I love Kaufman, but it wouldn't be on my own top list.
I've never really enjoyed Kaufman as a director. Synecdoche, New York left me cold. Anomalisa wasn't that great, but I'm thinking of Ending Things actually worked quite well for me. Verged into horror territory, and some of the themes that he touched upon really spoke to me. So yeah, this is a good film. Not sure it deserves to be high up on the list like this, but I'm glad it's there.
This is one of those films where I'm surprised that it's that high up in the list. I do think it's pretty great, but I'm really surprised it's like jumped 6 spots up. I didn't realise it sort of had this resurgence. But yeah, echoing Tom, after Anomalisa, I had very low expectations of what Kaufman could do as a director, but this one, really interesting, really twisted film. I have been meaning to rewatch it because I'm pretty sure rewatching it, knowing everything to come, I'd have a different expectation of it. But yeah, great film. It is a bit high up, but I really like seeing it on the list.
I mean, I thought it was decent, but it wasn't a favourite for me. Now, I've only seen 2 of the director's films. Neither of them were favourites. Can't really understand how it's as high as 13 in the list, to be honest.
And coming up on number 12, it's the highest ranked film of 2024, which means it could quite possibly keep rising. It's Carolee Forgets The Substance. And it's one of my favorite films of the decade already. Fantastic performance by Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid are also great. I just love how irreverent it is. It's just so stylized. It's very similar to Lanthimos in a way, just how distorted the lens goes, but it just has its own X factor, with its own crazy satirical themes, boldness, irreverence. I'm not even a body horror fan generally. I was not expecting anything from this. It was very low on my watch list, and I only saw it once it blew up, and it still blew me away. So yeah, big fan of this one, and we will talk about it more in our 2024 podcast.
The Substance is a great horror. Very gory. The body horror is spot on. Very slick and well made. It's nice to see, a horror getting so much buzz around the Oscars. So glad to see this one on the list.
I'm really happy that The Substance is on the list. Like Chris, it's one of my top films of the decade. I think it's in my top 5 of the decade. I think it might be number 4 for me. I was a bit disappointed it debuted so low in the list. I mean, I guess that's low relatively speaking. I mean, number 12 is nothing to sneeze at, but considering that other films, spoiler or not, did debut higher than that, yeah, I was hoping for it to place in the top 10. So that for me is a bit disappointing, but then I keep finding people who are seeing it for the first time, like some of our regulars. I find on our letterbox feed, and I just saw it last week or the week before. So hopefully in the next poll result we'll see it climb up even higher, because for me, it's really one of the films for the ages, and there's no way it's not going to be in my top 5 of 2024. So we'll wait until that podcast, and I'll get into further detail about it in that podcast.
I'm not much of a horror fan, and I ended up liking this a lot more than I expected to. It's not quite a favourite for me, and I think the only reason it's not quite a favourite is I just didn't like the ending as much. I really liked the film throughout, but once it kind of went to the ending, I lost a bit of interest in it, so I think otherwise it would have been a favourite.
And coming up next is Drive My Car. Finally, that other Hamaguchi film at the top. And it's actually shockingly low in a way, because it was third last time around. It dropped 8 spots. Like I said, I like this less than Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy. I don't fully get why it became as beloved as it did. I thought that the play sections in particular were overly long and uninteresting, and at 3 hours, with that being a huge portion of the film, just wasn't that interesting for me. It has a lot of great stuff going on there, but yeah, a bit of a mixed bag. I did really like it, but given just how overblown the the love for this film has been, I almost feel like a bit of a hater, but just to be clear, I do like this film.
For a 3-hour film, this one passed surprisingly quickly. I got into it, enjoyed it, don't really understand the huge hype around it. I wouldn't place it as a 11th in the poll, but it's a good film.
I'm really happy this one slipped 8 spots in our poll, because, yeah, I just don't get the buzz around it at all, especially being such a long film. And being one where there isn't like a lot of action, it's mainly just 2 people driving or standing or sitting around. I'm surprised it's done that well. I thought there'd be more backlash against it. For me, it's definitely one of the 5 weakest films in our list, but probably my 3rd weakest in the top 50. I did like Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy more, but yeah, Drive My Car just didn't really do anything for me. I didn't hate it, it didn't really rub me the wrong way, the same way that Worst Person in the World did, but yeah, it's really a dull film, and it's a long film, and it's a real drag, and yeah, it just amazes me. It's so high up, and I'm glad that it's slipping down.
I've seen the last 3 films by the director, and I'd put all of them as a favourite. I mean, Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy is easily my favourite of the last 3 of them, but I still think Drive My Car is a really good film. There's a lot of hype about it, so I think sometimes maybe that makes the expectations were really high for the film, so I kind of get why people might be underwhelmed, but I still think it was a really good film by itself.
And the majority of voters clearly agree with you, Adam. So you're not alone, even if we are a bit cold on it. And this means we are entering into the top 10. And the first film there is The Holdovers by Alexander Payne. It's a film that's grown on me. I've seen it twice now. The first time I thought it was a bit too archetypical. I recognized it a bit too much. The second time I just really got into the atmosphere, the melancholy, just the pace. It really paints a great atmospheric picture, fantastic performances, interesting dynamics. It's just a great film. It's a favorite of mine. It's one of the best films of the decade. So yeah, I'm very happy it's up there.
The Holdovers is a great film. Favourite of mine. Love the dynamic between the leads. Very funny, very moving, touching, and I'm happy that this is in the top 10.
As a teacher, I found The Holdovers very moving to watch also, and yeah, I agree it's a great film. We've discussed it in quite a bit of length in our Best of 2023 podcast, so anybody can go there for a deeper dive into it, but yeah, I'm pretty happy to see it quite high up on our list.
Yeah, I really love The Holdovers. It's the only one in this decade, I think, that I've seen twice. I saw the film and then I liked it so much that I was going to the cinema with a friend and I said, let's go and see it again. I think it's really great. I think it will stand the test of time. It's got a lot of heart. It's also funny. It's just kind of reminded me of, some older films. Like, I know people have compared it to like Dead Poets Society and things like that. I think it's a film that years from now will still be high up in the 2020s list.
Yeah, I think you're completely right there. And there's a big question for the next one, if it still be. But on number 9, we have Dune Part 1. And given the reception of Dune Part 2, it probably will be great visuals. Like I said, it's a little bit too sanitized for me to be, like, it has the proper X factor for me. But yeah, just gorgeous. One of the best blockbusters we've seen of decades. It's really up there. Like like Tom said, I love that they're making blockbusters like this now. So I wouldn't put it in my own top 100 of the decade, but it is a great film, and I understand why it's there.
Of course, it's a brilliant film. So glad it's in the top 10. If I had the capacity to do it, I'd fly to Australia, go to Saul's house, tie him up and force him to watch it, and just to see his reaction. Hopefully one day he'll watch it. He probably won't like it, but I just want to find out for sure.
I'm more than game to do that. If you wanted to come here, I'm more than happy for you to strap me up a Clockwork Orange style and see what I think of it.
Special in-person episode, everybody.
On a different note to that, or slightly different note, I actually did attempt to watch June this week, because I thought maybe I should try and watch Part 1 and Part 2 before the podcast, and it didn't pass my 20-minute rule. So I've talked about this in previous podcasts before. I usually try and decide within the first 20 minutes if I'm going to keep watching a film or not. I usually don't give up after the 20-minute mark, and I usually rarely give up. But yeah, this is one where I gave up. And I mean, I saw the David Lynch version recently, and I just can't really take, I guess, a more serious version, given how ridiculous all the spy stuff is. But anyway, I might actually watch the whole thing at some point and maybe give a more proper opinion.
I guess I can sum it up by saying I'm looking forward to Tom and Saul's podcast episode more than I am to watching Dune Part 2. I think Dune, I think the visuals were great. I think one of the big problems for me was I watched it. I hope Tom doesn't get too angry at this, but I watched it on my laptop, and I think you lose out on a lot of what makes the film good. I guess with films like this, often beyond the visuals, I'm not generally that excited, as it's not really my type of film. So I think it was a decent film, but I think it kind of needs to be watched at the cinema, and I think the visuals are obviously one of the main appealing aspects of it. So yeah, I wouldn't have it on my list or anything, and I haven't seen the sequel yet, but I should see it soon.
In almost every episode we make, it feels like we're going to do Film Purism Part 2, so let's see about that. Coming up on 8th place, it's Todd Field's Tar. And this is one of the most textually rich and complex films of the decade, in my view. Fantastic central performance by Cate Blanchett. It's just a really interesting and riveting film. I wasn't completely taken by the actual craft. I thought that some of the flash effects that were used there to kind of symbolize her thought process was a bit off. I didn't think it was at times as visually stunning or intriguing as it would need to be for me to have it as a top favorite. But it is a great film. I fully understand why it's there, and it's easily one of the most memorable films of the decade, and I would probably have it on my own top 100.
I'm surprised to see it in the top 10. I enjoyed it, but not as much as, say, Little Children, though I was excited to see, Todd Field return to directing. Hopefully we see some more great films from him in the forthcoming years.
It's interesting to have Tom mention Little Children, because I did really like Little Children, but then In the Bedroom is one of my all-time top 100 films. So for me, it's an absolutely amazing film. And Todd Field's done nothing that's close to that. I still like Tar. I thought it was a great film. It was really well acted. There's some interesting theories about what's going on in the last third of the film, which I think would be interesting to rewatch it, but I haven't rewatched it yet. I do think it's pretty great, but I also don't think Todd Field's really got anything close to what he achieved with In the Bedroom.
I really like this one. I'd have it as a favourite. I mean, I wouldn't put it in the top 10, but I would certainly... I think top 50 is fair enough. I think really strong lead performance, and I think the film worked well.
I have similar thoughts to this on Anatomy of a Fall as well. I like Anatomy of a Fall a bit better. I think it's a favorite of mine, or lower favorite. Again, it's one of the times where I wish it had been even more visual, but fantastic central performance, and just this kind of doubt and the way it plays with that doubt makes it such an exciting film. So I understand why it's there. I think it's going to drop a bit. It's not this high for me, but yeah, excellent film, and very understandable why it's there.
This is another film where the buzz just took it out of proportion. I was expecting greatness, and what I got wasn't. okay film, but nothing that really resonated with me, which kind of seems to be a similar thread as we get high up on this list. Popular films that do well with broad audiences, but kind of leave me a bit cold.
Anatomy of a Fall was pretty great. I guess I was expecting it to be great also. I really like the ambiguity in there and the fact that by the end of it you're still not sure what's happened. You've got two sort of possibilities, neither of which is plausible. Just made me really think a lot. And I would like to check it out again at some stage.
Ditto to Soul on this one. I think it was a really good film. Often I like, these kind of murder crime ones, and I think it was very hyped up, but I think it pretty much lived up to the hype for me and was one of the better ones of the decade.
And on number 6, we had The Father, which is an interesting double bill with, I'm thinking of ending things and how it looks at time and actually puts it in the position of someone with dementia and how everything blends together and creates that confusion. I thought it was a really strong film, excellent performance by Anthony Hopkins. It can almost feel like a horror film at times. It's not one of my top favorites of the decade, but it does so much right, and I can understand why it really connects with a lot of people.
I liked The Father. There's other films that explore similar themes and storylines to this, like Vortex by Gaspar Noé and Amour by Haneke, that I think are far more effective, but it's still a decent film. Just surprised to see it this high.
I'm absolutely ecstatic that The Father is this high up. It's a film that I guess I felt was quite personal for me when I was going and watching. I thought I was having a very personal connection with it. But people seem to have really embraced it. And yeah, it was my number one of 2020. So I went into great depth about it and how it was the best horror film of the year in the 2020 podcast. So if anybody hasn't listened to that podcast, you can go give that a listen now, and I go into much detail about it then. But yeah, incredible performance, and I just love the way we're sort of in his state of mind and we're not sure what's really happening, and it was really horrifying. Just like such an incredible experience for a film with such a boring title.
I laughed at the last comment, but I was on mute. Sorry, so yeah, I think it's I really liked that the Faber a lot. Great performances. I really liked the kind of mystery, kind of horror type elements of it. And on a random side note, really happy to see Olivia Colman doing so well. Used to watch Peep Show when it came out about 20 odd years ago. So it's really nice that she has made it and has become a really strong performer. And I think she was really, really good in this film.
And coming up on the top 5, we have Oppenheimer. And I have a slightly dissenting view on this one. I think it's a really, really good film, but I'm one of the few who doesn't quite think it's great. It's like a 7.5 for me. I think great performances, a lot of great direction and memorable visuals, though it drags. It really, really drags in parts. Like the love subplots are just really average and dully written, and they drag it out more than it had to be. I really like the black and white and the flip storyline, though that ended in a very obvious way. But it's a really strong film, and yeah, I get why people love this one.
I don't really get why people love this one. I'm a huge Nolan fan. I love almost all of his films. They're almost all 8 out of 10 or above, which constitutes a favourite in my book, apart from Tenet and Oppenheimer, which are 6 out of 10. I'm not really into biopics either. So yeah, it just left me cold. I don't understand the buzz. It was okay, but nothing special. Definitely does not deserve to be this high on our list.
You guys can count me in as another Oppenheimer dissenter. The film was well done technically, as you'd expect for a Nolan film, but probably my biggest problem with Nolan is that with all the dramas that he's been doing, I guess since he's got off the sci-fi track and is trying to do more serious Oscar baity films, all of his dramas are still sort of play out as if they're Memento. So you had that with Dunkirk, where things aren't quite going all at the same timeline, and the timeline is also mixed up in Oppenheimer, and it just gets a bit tiresome for 3 hours of it. So I really like to see a film from Nolan where he's actually just doing his own thing rather than trying to hark back to his style. And in a way, I don't blame him. I don't blame him because Memento is by far and away the best thing he's ever done, so I don't blame him for trying to structure all his other films like that. But it just, for something like Oppenheimer, it didn't quite feel right.
I did really like the film, although I would put it nowhere near the top 5 or even, I'm not sure, maybe top 50, top 100, but I think I was definitely a bigger fan of Barbie, given all the marketing around both those films. I think Oppenheimer's a good film. Just, I don't quite understand how it is ranked quite so highly.
Wow, none of us in the camp of loving Oppenheimer. I did not expect that. I'm also in the camp of preferring Barbie. So wow, that's completely unexpected. I thought I would be the most negative voice, to be honest, but I might be the most positive along with Adam. Oh well, Oppenheimer lovers, tell us why we're wrong. Anyways, on number 4, we have Charlotte Wells' fantastic debut, After Sun. Just a gripping and touching, stripped-down story of father and daughter with so much going on underneath in terms of emotion and atmosphere. It's not top 50 for me, possibly. Maybe it is, but yeah, it's a really great film.
I really enjoyed After Sun. It's a touching drama, great performances, there's some great use of music throughout, really captures the era quite well. Not sure I'd have it in top 5, but I'm not sad to see it there.
I quite liked After Sun when I saw it, largely for the girl's performance. The name of the actress escapes me, and then Paul Mescal ended up getting all the buzz for the film instead, which felt a bit wrong for me. I guess his character didn't quite find as interesting, the way it was developed, not as interesting. You just have these scenes where he's just like sitting back to her and crying, doesn't really like delve into much. So I guess for me it was a good film. It wasn't a great film, and then all the buzz it's got since then has just made me feel it's the most overrated film of the year. I really don't understand people putting it down as the best film of 2022. So I'm really sad that it's still so high up on the list, that it was number 4 last year. It's number 4 again this year, and I don't care how sad it's making Adam. I'm not going to be a big fan of After Sun unless you're talking about the girl's performance. She was fantastic in it. But the film itself was just, I guess, I like father and daughter tales, so I guess I knew I was going to like it, so I liked it. I guess it met my expectations, but it didn't exceed it, not to the point where it's going to be number 4 in a whole full decade. I mean, come on.
So After Sun would be my favourite film of the whole decade so far, which is quite funny after so kind of slightly destroyed it. As Chris mentions a lot, I'm a fan of ones that are exploring family dynamic, and I think the father-daughter relationship was great. I think the kind of atmosphere of the film was excellent. Really nice to see the young actress who's from Scotland. Nice to see her do so well. Frankie Corio, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but Frankie Corio. So I think she put in a great performance. Is basically, when sometimes I talk about liking family films, and I don't always like them at all, but this kind of had everything that I'm really looking for in a film.
And on number 3, it's the previous winner of the poll from last time we ran it, The Banshees of Inisherin. It's a great film. I really enjoyed it. It has excellent lead performances, great dark humor, great atmosphere. Though I was a bit bewildered at why this particular film ended up being on top of the list at that point, because it doesn't feel like it has that unique X Factor. It's kind of like, oh, this is the best of the decade. But great film, and I have no issue with it taking a big part of the canon in the years to come.
The Banshees of Inisherin is a really good film. It's probably the closest McDonagh has come to capturing the vibrancy of In Bruges, which I would say is his masterpiece. And part of that is because he's got Farrell and Gleeson at the top of their game. Brilliant dynamic between the two. Some excellent twisted humour throughout. So I can see why it's so high up. It's not quite a favourite for me, but again, I'm quite happy with it being there.
The Banshees of Inisherin is by far my least favourite Martin McDonagh film. I did like it, but then Three Billboards is my number 2 of the year. In Bruges is in my top 5 of the year. So, guess going in with high expectations, I was hoping for something a little bit more. I mean, Brendan Gleeson is amazing in it. I mean, as much as I love Everything Everywhere All at Once, I would have been happy with Brendan Gleeson winning the Best Supporting Actor for the film. I did enjoy it more than Seven Psychopaths, yes, Tom, but for me, it really, just didn't really quite hit right for me. I guess just it seemed a bit silly. I guess it's meant to be, because they're meant to be petty, but just, I don't think I can even say, because I think I said it before to Adam, and he told me off for spoiling the film, so I can't even say what it's about that's silly about it, but it's just, it just doesn't really, just didn't really work for me. And when it won the poll last time for Best of the Decade, I'm like, who the hell are these voters that actually think it's the best film of 2022? I mean, Tar, I can understand being above Everything Everywhere All at Once. I can understand that. The Banshees have been a share, and it's like, yeah, I'm happy it came away empty-handed at the Oscars. It really is not his best film, and I think he's capable of doing much better based on what we've seen from him before.
I like the film, but I think probably feel a bit more similar to Soul. I mean, I've not seen In Bruges since it came out. Can't remember it that well, but Three Billboards I absolutely loved. One of my favourites of that year. I think it was excellent. I think this one didn't work quite as well for me because I'm maybe not generally the biggest dark comedy kind of fan, and I think it went a bit too far along that lines. But still think it's a good film, but I'd have it nowhere near as high as it is on the list.
Sounds like we're all in that camp more or less then. So yeah, fans, fight for your favorite. And the next one up is the number 2. It's a brand new film on the list. Came out of nowhere. I mean, these films were revealed film by film. So when these films came in, shooting up more than 1,000 spots, I went, wow, what a jump. And then the host of the poll results told me not as big as the next one, which is a little bit of a spoiler. But wow, the new number 2 is Poor Things. We talked about this a lot in the best films of 2023 podcast. It's a Yorgos Lanthimos film. It's a crazy film. It's, I'm a huge Lanthimos fan. This is not my favorite from Lanthimos. In fact, it was a slight letdown because every film he made up until that point has been a favorite for me. This is still really great. I understand why so many people like it or love it even more than I did. But yeah, so damn crazy, beautiful, creative. I can't believe the forum actually went as big behind it as they did, but despite it not being in my top 10 or 20 of the decade, I'm very happy it made it up there.
I'm also happy to see Poor Things this high. Visually, it's absolutely astonishing. It's got the usual out there style and creativity that you come to expect from a Lanthimos film. Lots of references to Kubrick and the cinematography throughout, which I really liked. And I would much rather have seen this at number 1 than the film we have there, which we're going to talk about in a minute.
Oh, that's a sentiment that I can echo. I mean, I do like our number 1 more than you did, Tom, but for me, Poor Things is a film that really feels like it's destined for the top of the list because it sort of bridges that gap between the art house viewers and the more genre-inclined viewers like yourself and myself. But I think it really just appeals to a larger variety of different film goers. Plus, it's a really creative and really, really funny film. And yeah, I'm a little bit sad that it didn't top the poll, given that it came so close to doing it. But we'll see what happens next year, depending how voters go with this film and the film that ends up coming above it. But it's a great film to have in our top 5 of the year, and we did cover it extensively in our Best of 2023 podcast because it was my number 1 film of 2023.
I mean, I guess the top 2 films have had a massive jump, but in the UK, for example, they didn't come out until January, February 2024, so I guess a lot of people hadn't seen them, so I'm not that shocked that they've suddenly jumped into the list. Poor Things, I mean, is not a favourite for me. It was a really interesting and kind of different film, but it didn't quite work for me, but I'm not surprised that Soul and others like it a lot more than I do.
And let's get ready for the final dogfight then, because the new number 1 coming out of nowhere, also a 2023 film that was also released quite late, so most people hadn't seen it. It's Jonathan Glazer's The Zone of Interest. It's not my favorite film of 2023. 2023 is an absolutely amazing year. It is a favorite of mine. I like it much more than pretty much every other film in the top 10, actually. Yeah, it's my favorite in the top 10, for sure. Or maybe with the holdovers. And I'm just so excited that this film got in here, because it is like the most art house film up there. I mean, it's similar to Poor Things in some ways, in that it bridges a certain gap, but just how minimalist it is, how it has these experimental touches, how grueling it is. It's social commentary. everything hits home for me. And yeah, absolutely fantastic film. I just had no expectations of this coming up to number 1, like lower top 50 maybe. But yeah, wow, so happy this came here.
I'm the complete opposite of Chris. I was very disappointed to see this at number 1. It's a well-made film, very cold and clinical, but it just didn't resonate with me. I found it dull. There was nothing for me to latch onto story-wise. I understand the message behind it, but it doesn't necessarily make for an exciting viewing experience. I've not really clicked with any of Jonathan Glazer's works. I suppose Sexy Beast I did enjoy somewhat. Maybe that's because it's one of his films with a more conventional narrative, but I just don't see the love. It's really not a film I'd ever want to experience again.
Unlike Tom, I actually am a big Jonathan Glazer fan, and I remember I was having a discussion with Tom at one point saying we should do an Under the Skin podcast because it's probably one of my 100 favourite films of all time, and Tom said that it's one of his 100 least favourites, so a little bit of a difference in there. I guess for me it was a little bit disappointing, so it's the only Jonathan Glazer film that I've given less than a 9 out of 10 to. It was a solid 8 for me, but all of his other films have been a 9 or a 10 out of 10, so it was a mild disappointment, but it was incredibly interesting because it is Jonathan Glazer doing his usual stylish thing at his best. I think it's a little bit strange as a number 1 because it's extremely art house. I know they did manage to get a Best Picture nomination, and obviously it did do quite well with less art house inclined viewers, but yeah, I'm really surprised it's number 1 in our poll. I don't know if it's not a terrible one. I mean, we could have had After Sun as a number 1. We could have had the worst person in the world as number 1, so we could have had a much worse number 1. But yeah, I guess I would like to see Poor Things overtake in the next batch. I mean, it's a great film, zone of interest, but it just wouldn't quite be as hard for me as something like Poor Things.
Love, you essentially had exactly the same reaction to this one as I had to Poor Things.
I agree with Saul that After Sun would be a brilliant number 1. I'm glad that he's changed his opinion on that. We'll have to edit out his comments.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought I misspoke, but okay, it's a joke.
No, I'm just being stupid. I really liked the zone of interest. I think Chris summed it up pretty well. I think the way they're tackling such a kind of serious topic was really interesting. I would definitely not have it at number 1 in the list or even top 10. I'm actually very surprised that it did so well in the poll. I knew it would be like top 20. But yeah, I think it was a really interesting sort of take on the Holocaust and on, a really serious topic. So I think certainly one that I liked a lot, just not enough to be top 10.
And it's really interesting how diverse we all are in our opinion of most of these films as well, and that there's still so much debate about which films the best of the 2020s are. So it's going to be really interesting to see this in 5 years. We might do another episode then when the decade is actually closed and see what's changed and what's moved. I'm surprised you guys some of you are really expressing disappointment in the list to the extent you do, because like my top 3 or even my top 8, I think none of them are in the list at all. Like Manor House, Unrest, Pacifiction are my top 3. They're nowhere to be seen in the top 100. So yeah, I should be the one complaining, but I'm used to not getting my way. But who knows, maybe I'll get my way when the decade is done and I can do a lot of extra championing around these films, or there will be more films like The Substance where I can get into the in group. Oh well, let's see. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope we didn't piss some of you off too much in our disagreements about some of these major films. And yeah, if any agreements, come to the ICM forum and let us know. And if not, see you again soon. You have been listening to Talking Images, the official podcast of icmforum.com.